Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hi, this is The Author Show, and I'm your host, Linda Thompson. There's nothing more rewarding than having a pet, but when that pet is a service animal that can literally save your life, well, that's something very special. Christine Hessing has written Hope Has a Cold Nose, stories about those with PTSD and their service dogs, and she's here to share more. Christine, welcome to The Author Show.
Linda, thank you. It is truly my honor.
Christine, will you give us a quick overview of Hope Has a Cold Nose?
Yes, I actually tell everybody it is a book that has been co-authored with 23 other individuals, each of them sharing their life story and how they have found healing and hope with the aid of their service dogs. Each of them have journeyed with PTSD, or as I like to say, pain, trauma, sorrow, despair, something of which I think we all know at least one of those in our lifetime.
Wow. Yes, I definitely know people that have gone through PTSD and are still going through it. So what prompted you to want to share these military veteran stories in your book?
I was in a class with a military veteran and his service dog, and we were given a special assignment to create something. It was pretty open-ended. And writing life stories was not new to me. I had been a volunteer at a local hospice, so I had been writing life stories for some time, but I had not wrote a life story for somebody who was not knowingly dying. So I asked this veteran if I could write his life story for this project, and he very graciously said yes. And he also shared with me that I didn't know 22 veterans take their lives every day. And I believe so much in hope that it broke my heart to think that people reached a point that they were that hopeless. And from there, the book became what it is today.
Oh my gosh, you have just left me speechless. There's something about that just sends cold chills up my spine, thinking that many people have just given up. So you said there's 28 stories that you share. How did you find these vets?
And actually it's 23, Linda, and it was through a lot of reaching out to different organizations or somebody who shared their story and then recommended me to somebody else. It was over a 2-year time frame that the stories came to my path. And something that I knew this book was always meant to be, but I knew it when the start of the pandemic, when everything was locking down, I had a goal to have at least 22 stories in the book. And in a month's time, I had all the remaining stories I needed. And I felt that was a sign that this book was not only for veterans, it was for anybody that needed a sense of hope.
Wow. So who do you think would most enjoy reading Hope Has a Cold Nose?
Certainly veterans, but I would say anybody that loves a canine. And I would say anyone that is feeling a sense of anxiousness or a sense of isolation, that is something that I guess I'll say a gift out of this time we've all been experiencing is it's not such a wide gap anymore between the veterans who have felt very anxious and isolated and a lot of other people that now understand what that feels like. And so I think it's there to foster understanding for anyone who struggles with some of those things.
Is there any other book on the bookshelves that might be compared with Hope Has a Cold Nose?
What comes to mind, there's a book called Tuesday, and then, and the title just left me, but it was a sequel to it. It was actually wrote by a veteran or co-authored. He had help writing it. It was one of the first books out there about the power of a service dog to help a veteran with PTSD. And it actually was one of the first books to raise a lot of awareness about this service dogs as a healing modality.
Christine, tell us why you chose Hope Has a Cold Nose as the title of your book.
I knew the title needed to have hope. And when I thought about how we refer to canines with cold noses, it just seemed to flow, and it stuck, and it's never left me since.
I really like that. So, you've also written another book titled To the Moon and Back to Me, your memoir that also includes a dog. Has dogs always been a part of your life?
Yes, and actually, Hope Has a Cold Nose, in part, is dedicated to, it says, to Peppy, who first taught me Hope. And she was actually my very first dog that my dad brought home to me when I was probably 6, maybe 7. And she was my best friend through childhood. So, yes, dogs have always been a part of my life. I think actually the very first book I remember reading and sobbing was Where the Red Fern Grows. I think that's probably where I knew I was in love with dogs.
I understand that. So, why do you think that service dogs can help vets with PTSD so much? What is it about that bond between human and dog?
Yeah, I think one of the main things, Linda, is so many of the storytellers shared with me that their dog did not judge. So, as much as family and friends try to support, we still have an element of not fully understanding, or the person who's struggling perceives we don't understand. And the dog just unconditionally accepts and unconditionally loves, and also gives them a sense of having someone who has their back, or as they would say, who has their six. It's a bond like they knew in service that's right beside them. I think those are the main reasons.
Most of us know what PTSD is, but you've given it an entirely different definition. Will you please share a bit about that with us?
Yeah, so, as you said, most know it as post-traumatic stress disorder. But what I think about is that it's actually pain, trauma, sorrow, or despair. And I think that there is a stigma with post-traumatic stress disorder. But if we change it to say pain, trauma, sorrow, despair, it helps us connect more to each other. Because I think that all of us can say we have something in our life that was painful or traumatic, or we knew sorrow, and maybe we even knew despair. And I think it helps foster, we don't always have to accept the other story, but if we at least listen, people start to heal the moment they feel heard.
That's pretty profound, Christine. So, do you keep in touch with the veterans whose stories you've told in Hope Has a Cold Nose?
Some of them I do, and some of them I haven't since the launch of the book. I will say they all have left a footprint in my heart, though.
And how many of them have read your book, and what kind of comments have you received from them?
I think all of them have, and I've heard comments anywhere from, was nice to know others shared similar, things. But I think one of the most special input that I got was someone whose children finally understood things about their dad they had never understood because he could never talk about it. And then they were able to read his story.
Wow. I can imagine that would be pretty impactful on the kids. So, are you writing a new book now, or do you have plans for one in the future?
I do have plans, but I haven't yet had another one of those stories cross my path. I'm always inspired by stories of hope. I'm feeling nudged towards people that have been sharing with me. They call them their sobriety dogs that have helped them with different addictions. So that's kind of percolating in my mind.
Christine, what has been the most rewarding experience for you since publishing Hope Has a Cold Nose?
I think it has been the people that have shared with me how they were finally able to heal some of their own pain or their grief. People that would share with me how much the book helped them truly find hope.
Looking back, do you think you've always wanted to be a storyteller of other people's stories, or have you always wanted to be an author?
Yes, I think that it was always there, and I turned it off for a long time, and then it just became too loud of a whisper to ignore.
What would you like readers to remember after finishing Hope Has a Cold Nose?
That life is always going to bring us ebbs along with the flows, but there is always, a purpose. There's a reason for that ebb, and we make that We make that pain, trauma, sorrow, despair matter in the choice we make and how we go forward.
What sets Hope Has a Cold Nose apart from others in the genre?
I think that it is very soulful, meaning it touches people when they read it and they can find something of themselves in it, a shadow part of themselves in it, but they don't have to talk to anybody about it to know they've been understood.
I like that. So, Christine, will you please read a short excerpt from Hope Has a Cold Nose for our listeners?
It's great to be with a group of fine men and women who each have a story of pain and of hope. Yet, courageous soldier, if you are reading this, there is something else I would like you to know. We can relate to your story, for we know the pain and the isolation from friends and from family. Yet we can't begin to understand, for there is only one person who knows your exact story. Only you walk in your own shoes to know what you feel and what you can no longer feel as emptiness takes a seat in your heart. Only you can know how it can be so brutally hard. Yet there is one soul who can hear your heart even when you can't verbally speak. There is one who will listen and love unconditionally. There is one in which you are always safe to talk about the things you believe others aren't able to hear or know what to do. It is this same one who will diffuse anxiousness and frustration rising within you. This soul I refer to as a service dog, one like my Brutus, who doesn't have the baggage of us humans and how we hear and see. Brutus doesn't have any perceptions that could cloud how he listens and views me. Dad, if I could do something more to take away your pain, please know I would gladly do so. The best I can do is sit between your legs and by your side so that you know you are never alone. When you have your moments that are less than best, that is okay. Remember, I witness your strength and faith every day. I love you, Dad. And I'm so glad I convinced them all that I was a runt that wasn't much of anything. You're right, Dad. I was just waiting for my best friend, you, to find me.
Oh my gosh. That gave me cold chills. So now I want to know, where can we learn more about you, about your other book, and where can we purchase Hope Has a Cold Nose?
Thanks for asking, Linda. So you can visit my webpage, which is Christine, that begins with a CH, Ristine, Hassing, H is in hat, A, S is in Sam, S is in Sam, ing.com. You will find where you can purchase my book. You will find things about me. You'll also find that when I'm not writing, I help people from a leadership standpoint. And there's also a contact section. Feel free to reach out. I welcome anyone that would also like to share their story. I'm always looking for chances to blog stories of hope.
And you do have a blog and a sign up there, right?
Correct, I do. Yes, and you can certainly follow any blogs I post, which would be great. I'd love to continue to stay in touch with you as the readers.
We've been talking with Christine Hassing, author of Hope Has a Cold Nose. Christine, I find your stories heartwarming. I know what service animals can do for people, not only those suffering from PTSD and MST, but from dementia and other diseases. You've done us all a great service by telling these stories, and I thank you for taking your time to share your book with us today, and I do hope when you publish your next one that you'll come back and talk with us again.
Truly my honor, truly my privilege. And Linda, thank you. Thank you for your time today.
In Hope Has a Cold Nose, Christine Hassing relays true stories of military veterans and others who rose from the ashes of PTSD and MST with the help of their service dogs. Devoting every chapter to a different human-canine pair, Hassing shares the story of each person with PTSD and their service dog with pathos and creativity. If you'd like to know more after listening to that review, please go to christinehassing.com and order your copy today. And when you finish, don't forget to post a review, and please share this interview with your friends so that they too may become acquainted with our author. And remember, the Author Show may be accessed at any time at theauthorshow.com. Plus, selected interviews can also be found on major platforms such as Amazon Fire TV, the Roku channel, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and many more. Whether you are an author who would like to be featured or a reader in search of new books, theauthorshow.com is a really great place to start.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.